I call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. The board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Texas Government Code Section 551.071, private consultation with the board's attorney. 551.072, discussing purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. 551.074, to discuss personnel or to hear complaints against personnel, and the time is 5:31. The board will now reconvene into open session. The time is 6:26. On behalf of the trustees, I would like to welcome you to this evening's meeting of the Northeast Independent School Board. This is a business meeting of the board held in public. We appreciate your attendance and request your respectful attention. We welcome your comments during the matters from the floor section of the agenda. If you signed up to address a specific action agenda item, you will be called at that time. Finally, I would like to remind you that it is the mission of Northeast to challenge and encourage each student to achieve and demonstrate academic excellence, technical skills, and responsible citizenship. Item 5, Invocation and Pledge of Allegiance, Krueger Middle School, Ms. Rubio.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Gottardy, members of the board, executive staff, guests, and K9 Leonard. It's my pleasure to introduce two outstanding students from Krueger Middle School this evening. They are here to lead us in the invocation and the pledges to our nation's flag and to the flag of Texas. First, I want to introduce Tristan Lee. He is in the KSAT program at Krueger Middle School. He's a National Junior Honor Society Vice President, Lighthouse Committee President, member of the Student Launch Initiative, and a member of the Mathematics UIL. He's also in GT Math and English. He's got the highest GPA at KSAT. And he comes to Krueger from Steuben Ranch Elementary School and would like to attend Roosevelt High School in the Engineering Technologies Academy program before moving to study at the University of Texas Health Science Center, with his ultimate goal of becoming a medical engineer. Tristan has joined us this evening with his parents, Miss Elizabeth and Mr. Rodney Lee. Leading us in the pledges of allegiance is Asia Riley. Asia is in the 8th grade. She's a member of the basketball team. She's in the National Honor Society. She's in the AVID program. She's a singer in our school choir. She's in all pre-P advanced classes. She comes to Krueger from Walsham Elementary School, and she hopes to attend Roosevelt High School. And she wants to move on to the University of Texas in Austin and become a pediatrician. She is accompanied this evening by her mom, Desiree Sewell.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tristan, and I am an 8th grader at Krueger Middle School. I stand before you this afternoon to lead the invocation. I am honored and humbled at this opportunity, and ask that you reflect on the following ideas they have woven together for tonight's meeting. A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. This was said by the famous American author, John Maxwell. This quote can connect to anything you do in life, but especially in our schools where students learn to know their environment, to make good decisions, and to be models for their peers. At Krueger, we are taught that the 7 habits of highly effective people can lead to the most fruitful endeavors. Thus, my hope is that each school board member remains proactive in their position, speaking on behalf of the concerns of each community that they represent. As each of you look to a vision of the future, or beginning with the end in mind, remember that the Krueger Falcons ask that you prioritize the pressing needs of our Northeast San Antonio school community, putting first the things that deserve to be first. I ask that each of you turn your thinking towards solutions that will win for all parties involved, as you seek first to understand and then to be understood. And finally, as you synergize and work together as a team on this school board, achieving the goals together that would have been impossible alone, don't forget to balance and renew your resources, better known as sharpening the saw, so that you can remain sustained and effective. May the agenda set before you all tonight be advantageous to our community. In the spirit of Thanksgiving and in recognition of the season of giving, I give thanks in advance for the work that you'll do here tonight. Good luck and go Falcons.
Please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of the Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Tristan and Asia, would you please come forward? Mr. White's going to have some certificates for you, and we're going to take a picture. Miss Rubio, would you please come forward too for a picture? And Tristan, that was awesome. I loved how you incorporated all the 7 habits into that inspiration. Did a very nice job. Mr. Watson, Steve is here. He should come forward. Okay, there you go. Sorry.
Nice kids.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was already on to the next thing. Thank you all for being here, and you may leave. You do not have to spend the rest of your evening with us tonight. Thank you again for being here. We appreciate it. Okay. Item 6, recognitions. A, recognition of service for K-9 Leonard. Mr. Clary?
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests, Chief Campbell will be making his way to the podium to make this recognition.
Good evening. President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests. It is my honor tonight to recognize one of NEPD's finest. In April of 2009, at the age of 2, K-9 Leonard started his career with NEPD. In December of 2017, after 8 years with the department, K-9 Leonard will be retiring from his duties. This is about the average age a drug weapon K-9 can work. Several factors go into how long a K-9 can work, the main factor being the K-9's body simply can't handle the work any longer. K-9 Leonard performed around 3,000 building and vehicle searches. Of those searches, K-9 Leonard alerted over 538 times in which some type of contraband was sensed. Here are some of the results of those positive alerts over K-9 Leonard's 8-year career. 204 of those alerts led to 4 pounds of marijuana discovered, not including the 22 pounds of marijuana found for DPS narcotics. 175 alerts of the marijuana residue and 100 alerts of paraphernalia. 26 alerts of illegal prescription medication. 8 alerts for possession of alcohol. 2 alerts for mushrooms. 5 alerts for meth. 4 alerts for cocaine. 1 alert for a syringe with heroin. 1 alert for ecstasy. 9 alerts on 2 guns, 2 brass knuckles, 4 illegal knives, and a throwing star. Approximately $2,000 was confiscated due to the alerts. And in between all that, average 7 presentations a year to our schools. By the examples above, it is clear K-9 Leonard has been a valuable tool to help keep our schools drug and weapon free. Because of K-9 Leonard's success, a second K-9, Jerry, was added in 2015 to the department. At the end of the last school year, K-9 Leonard's handler, Officer Rusink, and I had discussion that this would be his last year of service for K-9 Leonard. In July, Officer Rusink found a replacement for K-9 Leonard, and that K-9 is named Toby. He will take over when the school we get back after the holidays, so there will be no reduction of K-9 service to the district. K-9 Leonard will spend his retirement with his handler, Officer Rusink, playing in the yard and relaxing at home. Thank you, K-9 Leonard, for everything you have done to help NEISD to be the safest it can be for our students, staff, and our community. Thank you.
Can you give him a standing ovation?
Do you have a certificate?
Yeah.
You go do that.
Yeah, fine. So precious.
I think hopefully you weren't alert.
I don't know who's retiring.
Yeah. I think he needs to too, poor guy.
Yes, thank you very much for
So sweet.
Get a good one of Leonard, yeah.
I have a dog, so there's only 20 shots to get it go.
You get the smile just right.
So cute.
Item 7, matters from executive session. A, personnel including but not limited to administrative appointments pursuant to Government Code Section 551.074. 1, possible action regarding routine personnel including but not limited to administrative appointments. Do I have a motion to approve personnel as presented in executive session? Thank you, Mr. White. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Trevino. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item 2, introductions. Dr. Gottardy.
Thank you, Madam President, board members. We'll bring him back for a special formal introduction at the January board meeting, but it's my privilege this evening to announce that Mr. Ben Peterson is the next Senior Director of Career and Technical Education. So we congratulate Ben and thank you very much for that approval tonight.
Okay, thank you. Item B, possible action on the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property pursuant to Government Code Section 551.072, no action. C, possible action regarding consultation with board's attorney pursuant to Government Code Section 551.071, 1, pending and or possible litigation, no action. Item 8, presentations. A, School Board Recognition Month. Dr. Gottardy.
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam President, board members, ladies and gentlemen. In recognition of the dedication of Texas's 7,000 plus school board members, January 2018 is School Board Recognition Month. The attached resolution certifies that the Northeast Independent School District will join other school districts across the state in thanking our local leaders for their dedication and willingness to serve as advocates for our children and our public schools. As elected officials, they are the voice of their communities, serving first and foremost in the best interests of our district's school children. Recognizing our board members for this commitment takes a combined effort on the part of all they serve: administrators, school staff, students, and the community. We hope you will take this opportunity to join me in acknowledging our board members who make the time to share their vision and voice about the future of the Northeast Independent School District students. If you'll please help me give these board members a nice round of applause. Thank you very much. January, recognizing School Board Month.
I can't wait for the pictures, Jason. That's the best part. Thank you. Item 9, Board Business. A, possible action regarding ballot cast for Bear Appraisal District Board of Directors for 2018-2019. So we have a resolution. You've all seen that. And then we can elect, we have 824 votes that we can cast for for the Board of Directors for the Bear Appraisal District. Now, we are within the top 5, and so we can choose to use all of our 824 votes for one person, or we can give some to our person and give some to another person. We have nominated Keith Hughey to serve on the Board of Directors of the Bear Appraisal District. And Marie and I talked today, and it looks like to keep us in the top 5, we could give 300 votes, is that right? Yes. To another candidate, and keep 524 for Keith and still be in the top 5.
Yes, ma'am, but we don't, that was before we found out that one of the other school districts is giving 229 to Sherry.
Okay,
That was before we knew that.
okay,
We
so,
don't have to give her as many, we can give her, 200 if we want to do that.
okay, so I think what we were talking about doing is Sherry Byram, who was nominated by Southwest ISD, giving her some of our votes in order to bump her into the top 5.
Yes, she had 73.
Okay,
Another district gave her 229.
Okay.
Brought her total to 302.
okay,
We could give her 100, and that would bump her in the top 5.
okay. So is,
Put her at 402.
okay, so we want to, so we need to give votes to our nominee, Keith Hughey, and then we can also give 100 votes to, okay. So do I have a motion of somebody who would like to give 100 votes to Sherry Byram and 724 to Keith Hughey?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Perkins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wheat. All those, or is there any discussion? You're
I'll be
gonna
abstaining.
Okay.
And thank God that Keith Hughey wants to serve.
Okay. Oh, my
So
God.
thanks to Keith, really.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Yes, and you abstain. Thank you very much. Item 10, comments from individual board members. A, state board rule on board member continuing education announcement of credit. I would like for the minutes to reflect that the board members, myself, Mrs. Perkins, Mrs. Hughey, Mr. Wheat, Mr. White, Mr. Jaso, and Mr. Trevino have met or exceeded the required continuing education hours. Thank you very much. Next item, 11, new business for possible board action. A, board policy. 1, possible action regarding board policy C.Q.A. local, second reading. Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests. This is the second reading. The first reading was last week. If you have any questions, I'm glad to answer.
Okay, does anybody have any questions about this second reading? If not, do I have a motion to approve the second reading of the attached board policy CQA local as submitted?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Perkins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Trevino. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Item B, resolutions. 1, possible action regarding Mentor Month. Ms. Chancellor.
Madam President, board members, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests, I would like to ask Brooke Pate, who is our district volunteer coordinator, to come up and address this item.
Good evening. The month of January 2018 has been designated as National Mentor Month. Whereas NEISD students benefit greatly when community, businesses, and parent partners in education actively participate in children's intellectual, emotional, and social growth by supporting them. And whereas these unique partners in education provide mentors for students of all levels, kindergarten through 12th grade, with many opportunities to learn skills, succeed academically, acquire knowledge, and make wise choices. And whereas these mentors represent local business leaders, employees from large and small businesses, community leaders, community volunteers, parents, neighborhood volunteers, and patrons that support the Northeast Independent School District's programs. Whereas mentors work to positively impact students by social and career mentoring, job shadowing, tutoring, working with junior achievement, serving at-risk students, promoting a drug-free environment, supporting ecology, encouraging athletics and the arts, assisting educators, and showing children that they care about their education. Whereas these mentors, together with school teachers and administrators, create a great learning environment in our school district. Members of the board, because of the enormous efforts of all of our mentors and volunteers, I'm asking for your support of the Mentor Month resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pate. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Just yay.
Very good.
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve the attached resolution recognizing January 2018 as Mentor Month?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hasso. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Trevino. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item C, instruction. Possible action regarding 2018-2019 proposed traditional school calendar. Dr. Newman.
Thank you, President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests. At this time, I'd like to have Colleen Borman give you this presentation on our 2018-19 school calendar.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Some of you may be saying, Mrs. Borman, we always have the calendar in November. What is wrong with you? Well,
Actually, I was thinking it was early. I'm like, I don't want to think about it next year.
So I have a very short presentation just to kind of go through the why this year is just a tad different. So before we start any calendar discussions, we really talk about that belief. With any group, we talk about what is our belief about the calendar. And the belief is that when we create a calendar, it is what is instructionally best for students. It best supports instruction, academic achievement, and then it takes into account the adults. And so we kind of always set the tone when we talk about calendar with that. So just some background knowledge, because we only do the calendar once a year, and sometimes we just forget. And so in 2015, the 84th legislature passed legislation which changed the calendar from 180 days to 75,600 minutes. We dealt with that. The intent of that law was really to provide us with flexibility to address any instructional needs, any inclement weather days, and so it was to provide us with some flexibility. The other piece of legislation that we need to always keep in mind is that under Texas Education Code, the first day of school for students may not be earlier than the fourth Monday of August. So those are just some background information. When we hit the 2015 legislation, our calendar, we were fine, our instructional minutes. It really didn't cause us anything to change our calendar. So then comes a T.E.A. administrator address letter. So T.E.A. comes in and says, whoa, hold up a minute. We want you to look at this. And what the letter addressed to the administrator said was, you know those waiver days we gave you? We gave you free minutes. You're not going to get those waiver days anymore. So we know we have them approved. We have ours approved all the way to 2020. They rescinded those waiver days. They also said, you know those waiver days for early release? You don't get those either. If you want these waivers, if you want these, you need to build it into your 75,600 minutes. So that is where it caused us to rethink some things about our calendar. So what we did, what we always do, is we now have the why. Then we said, okay, we've got to pull everybody together and really talk about what do we want to do with the calendar. If we're going to have to, if we don't get the free early release days, we don't get the free PD three professional development days, what are we going to do? So we pulled central office departments together, the teacher organizations. Tom and Patsy were gracious enough to come meet with us. We had a principal advisory come together. And what we decided was we need the 3 professional development days, and we need the early release days. So when you put that back into our calendar, the only way for that to work was we would need to increase the length of the instructional school day. So once we realized we made that decision, executive staff was involved, we realized, you know what, we need to talk to some really important players in this. Transportation, Jack and Sharon came in, and also Karen Funk, and we talked about if we change the current start and end times, how can we accommodate with that within the district? So when you look at the instructional day, in order to make this work, the length of the instructional day at elementary and middle school would be 7 hours and 15 minutes. We currently go for elementary school right now 7 hours. So we would add an additional 15 minutes to the elementary school day. For middle school, they go 7 hours and 5 minutes. We would add an additional 10 minutes to their day. The high schools, they'll remain the same. They were already 7 hours and 20 minutes. So then we needed to look at staffing. HR department, Hoel worked with us, and we said, hey, this is what we would need to do the instructional day. It does not affect our teacher contract days. It doesn't affect their teacher work schedule. The paraprofessionals, theirs remain the same, the work schedule, everything remains the same on the paraprofessionals. What we're doing is increasing the student day, which when you think about our belief system, it's putting students first. So we feel comfortable with it. We pushed out 2 options to our campuses, option 1 and option 2, and option 1 was, overwhelmingly the response that the campuses wanted. And then we also took the calendar to DEIC, and DEIC also said, you know what, option 1 is the calendar we'd like to recommend to you all. So in your packet, you have the option 1, and also in the presentation notes, it kind of highlights some things. But what you'll see is basically it's a traditional calendar, one that we have used, pretty much every year. The difference is we were able to, in option 1, provide our teachers with a professional development day in January. And if you've heard any feedback about the calendar, I'm looking over there, they're all nodding. Everyone loves having that professional development day in January, to be able to come back as professionals, really take a look at where we're heading and what we need to do for our kids, and be ultimately prepared for that beginning of the 2nd semester. That was the difference between option 1 and option 2. And the rest is like we're used to seeing. We begin that first Monday. Our semester ends in December, and that's something we've always wanted. And then our last day of school, as you can see there, is June 6th. So with that, we are seeking permission for approval of the calendar.
If I missed it, what are the hours then?
The hours for elementary school. Now remember, elementary school is staggered because of busing. Yeah. And so some elementary schools start at 7:30, some are at 7:40, and some at 8 o'clock. The start time will not change for elementary. The additional time was put at the end of the day.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. And then middle school, the middle school time would start at 8:25. We currently start at 8:20.
Okay.
And then they would end at 3:40. Okay. And then in order for this to happen, the high school moves forward 10 minutes, and they would begin at 8:55 and end at 4:15. And so we couldn't start our day any earlier, and then we pushed it as far as we could, knowing that we have fine arts and athletics and other activities that we've got to get our kids to. And so lots of help on making those big decisions.
So we had to push high school back, I guess, because of busing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And our high schools, they They like.
I was going to say.
Now, and if you read the research, you know what they'll
Yes.
say. The research is very clear.
We should start at noon.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the research says.
I don't know about new, but maybe
I'll
9.
find some additional research.
Sorry.
I'm just trying to help out those teenagers. Okay, does anybody else have any, I'm sorry, Ms. Hughey?
With us going until June the 6th, that's going to put us really late again for graduations. Is that still, are we looking at trying to put high school graduations 2 or 3 a day so that we're not going into that full second week of
Yes,
June
we are.
again? Okay. Because I know that,
We, as a staff, we looked at that the other day. I think we're already looking at June of 19, and we had 2 or 3 days with at least 2, if not 3, no, 2 graduations in a row.
I believe it was
in a
3
row.
days, yes.
Yeah.
Say,
that's great.
clarify that, please.
There were 3 days with 2
Okay.
graduations each day for
Okay.
June of 19.
Okay. But
Which
none
is
that
very
had,
similar to what we did this year and what we're going to do in June of 18.
right, okay.
I know it's hard on us and it's hard on staff, but I think it's, so far as families and things like that, it's much, and I really feel bad for the pressure that puts on y'all. But I know for families, it certainly is to have have it go so late. Have we looked at all or talked at all about District of Innovation to where we could at least address the calendar issue? Because the legislature's made it very clear they're not interested in academics.
Mrs. Hughey, our staff has begun the discussion
true.
of districts of innovation, but we have not gotten down the road far enough to make a recommendation to you.
Okay, I know some of our neighboring districts have done it specifically
Just
for
for
the
the calendar.
calendar.
Yeah.
Sure, for that calendar flexibility, although the legislature did try to take that away
They
this
did.
past year too, but I don't know. One more fight. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Ms. Borman? If not, do I have a motion to approve the 2018-2019 proposed option 1 calendar as the traditional school calendar?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Perkins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Trevino. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Borman. Item 2, possible action regarding boundary adjustment for new neighborhood developments from Bulverde Creek to Roan Forest Elementary Schools. Dr. Newman.
Thank you again, President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests. At this time, Jeff Kurth will give you a presentation on this agenda item.
Thank you, Dr. Newman. Like this. Try that again. How about now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Newman. So tonight we've come to the Board of Trustees to propose a boundary adjustment for Roan Forest Elementary and Bulverde Creek Elementary. So to begin with, we'd like to review the boundaries for Bulverde Creek Elementary. And so on the map that you see here, the light blue area is the Bulverde Creek Elementary Attendance Zone. And if I can see my mouse is here, the northern boundary of Bulverde Creek is Evans Road. So if you travel from west to east on Evans Road, you'll notice that Evans Road bends here to the south. So this is the easternmost boundary of Bulverde Creek Elementary. The southernmost boundary is Loop 1604 that goes across. On the west side, you have US 281, Redland Road, everything south of Redland Road, that is. And then you have the H track that's now found in the Bulverde Creek Elementary Attendance Zone. And that was December 2014 that the Board of Trustees had made that decision. So that's the attendance zone for Bulverde Creek Elementary at this time. If we look at the 10-year projections based on the current boundaries for Roan Forest and Bulverde Creek, if you look at the red dotted lines, these are the 95% classroom capacities for both campuses. And then the black dotted line are the core capacities, which is based on cafeteria space. And you'll notice at Bulverde Creek Elementary, we are projecting with the current boundaries that they will approach or perhaps even surpass in the year 2022 the 95% classroom capacity. Roan Forest is not projected to reach the core capacity or the classroom capacity, and it's going to maintain enrollment somewhere between 800 and 900 students. So there are two new single-family neighborhoods on Evans Road, and I'll point those out in some future slides here, that are being developed, and they're in the northeast corner of the Bulverde Creek attendance zone. Those two new developments are Winding Oaks and Foxgrove Ackermann. Winding Oaks that site has already been developed. Bexar County Appraisal District has already has registered about 198 parcels in that development, and is slated to be open in December 2017. But we do know, we have already gone to that development, we do know that one lot has already been purchased by a family. That family does not have children at this time. The Foxgrove Ackermann is a site that has not yet been developed, but it's in the next 5 years it will be developed. Wendell Davis and Associates has provided us housing estimates for this, and he's estimating that there will be about 320 units in the next 5 years that will come out of here, out of this development. So, going back with Winding Oaks development, I mentioned here's the Evans Road, the northernmost boundary of Bulverde Creek Elementary. You can see Bulverde Creek here off of Bulverde Road. And if you travel on Evans Road to the east, and right where it bends to the south, you will find a new development called Winding Oaks Development. Like I had mentioned before, there are about 198 units in this development, and we are estimating about 50 to 55 students that would come out of this development area. The other development, Foxgrove Ackermann, is just before you reach, was Winding Oaks, so just before you reach that, it has not been developed yet, but we have traveled past there, and you actually can see tractors in there starting to dig roads. So Wendell Davis and Associates has estimated that there's about 320 units there, and we can estimate about maybe 90 students will come out of that area. And these are students, when I talk about students, these are elementary students, so there'll be other middle school and high school students too, but we're looking at specifically at the elementary level. So, if you go back to the map now, you can now see where Winding Oaks and Foxgrove Ackermann is. So we know that you might know Foxgrove neighborhood is right here, in this area here, and then we also have Northwood Hills that is in this area here. So it's the area farthest east on Evans Road. So our recommendation is that we will move these two developments to Roan Forest Elementary. If we move those two developments, we can go back and readjust the projections for the next few years and look to see what has happened. If we do that, we can project that starting out with Bulverde Creek, that we now have kind of a relief until perhaps the year 2024, 2025, before they would reach the classroom capacity. For Roan Forest, it will gain about 140 students over the next 5 years or so, and so it'll be somewhere around between 900 to 1,000 students. But I do want to let you know that Roan Forest has had close to 1,200 students. 1,183 students, I think, was the maximum enrollment that campus had, and that was in the year 2008. So they have had a large enrollment there, and they do have the capacity to be able to have that large of an enrollment. If we look at travel distances, if we start at the beginning, at the entrance of Winding Oaks, and we travel to Bulverde Creek Elementary, it's about 4.6 miles. You would have to travel on Evans Road to the intersection of Bulverde Road, and then travel south to that campus. From Winding Oaks to Roan Forest Elementary is about 4.5 miles. And once again, you would stay on Evans Road, until you get to the entrance to where Roan Forest is. Some advantages and disadvantages of this decision. The advantage is that there won't be any impact on any residents that are currently living in the Bulverde Creek Elementary attendance zone. It will provide enrollment relief for enrollment growth for Bulverde Creek Elementary, and it could alleviate any impact on classroom and core capacity in the next few years. Disadvantage is that Roan Forest could reach a capacity of the core capacity by the year 2020. So at this time, we are proposing this boundary adjustment for Roan Forest Elementary and Bulverde Creek Elementary. So our recommendation is that we would adjust the boundary between or for these two new neighborhood developments, Winding Oaks and Fox Grove Ackermann, and we'd move them from Bulverde Creek to Roan Forest Elementary. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
Just a few questions, Mr. Cook. You said right now we would not be changing anybody's boundaries. I mean, no kids would have to go to a different school from where they are right now.
Right. Since these are new developments, and like I had mentioned before, we know of one lot that has been sold, and that lot, the family that purchased that lot does not have children. So at this point, there aren't any individuals that we know of that would be impacted by this change.
And it looks like the move or the planned move would give some relief to Bulverde, but it's still, Bulverde is going to end up with a whole lot more students. Even, it might just give us an extra 2 or 3 years on that. Does that look right?
Right. It would give us a relief for a couple more years, exactly. Now, because of our loss of enrollment, we're beginning to see even these campuses in the northern portion of our district that are being affected, including Bulverde Creek. Bulverde Creek, although that they didn't lose enrollment this year, they did not reach their projection of what our expectation of what it has. So we'll probably see that happen. So with that, with the overall loss in enrollment, we probably will see that we'll have some extra years that will alleviate that growth because of that too. So.
And as far as Roan Forest achieving core capacity is what we actually want for a school, right?
The
Or
core
not?
capacity is actually the cafeteria space.
Okay.
So we take the total square footage in the cafeteria, and the state allots, I think, 15 square feet per student. So we divide the total square footage by 15 square feet, and then the Board of Trustees has approved 4 lunches that would be able to pass through there. And so that's how we calculate the core capacity, is based on the square footage and the number of a maximum number of 4 lunches that would be able to travel or to go to lunch. So it would go over that. We have had elementary campuses that have had or above the core capacity, and they've been able to adjust. So.
And
I
Roan
lived
Forest
it
is
at
just
Roan.
before. Yeah.
When Lauren was there.
Right.
We were at 1200, and it's
Okay.
just, the cafeteria's crowded,
Yes.
but it's doable.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
I was just going to make a comment. We do have land for another elementary school on Bulverde Road, as I recall. Obviously, it would take a bond to do it, but we do have an elementary site. Is that not correct?
We actually have 2 sites along Bulverde Road.
Okay.
We have
Maybe
the
there was one for sure.
Rosehart property.
Right, the Rosehart's one I
We
was
also
thinking of.
have 30 acres that's on the same floor plan or footprint as Tex Hill Middle School.
Right,
So
right.
there's actually 2 sites on Bulverde Road for future elementary schools, but at this present time, and if you recall, back in the 2015 bond, the discussion was, do we build another elementary school, or do we utilize the capacity that's available before we build a new school? And that was the decision made. This decision, along with some other decisions that we've made since 2015, has really strengthened our ability to not have to build another
Right.
elementary school for the unforeseeable future.
Should there be some development rather quickly on that Yates tract that we know could be sold, do we potentially have any extra room at Encino Park, or is that at capacity?
We do.
We do.
know Encino Park has capacity, as well as one of the discussion points that we talked about back in 2015, is that you have additional capacity at Redland Oaks.
Okay.
So there is capacity in the area in case that the Yates track were to develop and homes started to be built.
So no need to panic.
Not for some time now.
Good. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything? If not, do I have a motion to adopt new boundaries for the Fox Grove, Ackermann, and Winding Oaks neighborhoods, moving them from Bulverde Creek Elementary to Roan Forest Elementary?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Perkins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item D, operations. 1, possible action regarding 2015 bond program, Krueger Middle School Phase 2, construction manager at risk campus replacement project bid award approval. Mr. Clary.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff and guests, Mr. Sullivan is at the podium to make this presentation on Krueger Middle School.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam President. It's my pleasure tonight. I've got two presentations for you from construction, the first one being Krueger Middle School. This is the agenda we're going to follow. This is the design team for the project. I'd like to make some introductions, if I may, at this point. First of all, we have the construction manager here, Guido Construction Company. We have Marianne and Tom Guido, who are the owners of the company, and Albert Gutierrez, who's the project manager for this project. Thank you all for being here. And sitting right behind them is Braden Haley, who is the project architect representing LPA. And we have a very strong design team as well. This is Krueger Middle School. In a previous bond program, the 2003 bond, we built this new science edition, A-Classroom Science Edition, which represented what we consider phase 1 of a master plan to replace all of the facilities at Krueger Middle School over a multi-bond program time frame. Phase 2 is what we're going to talk about tonight. These are the components of the Phase 2 project. The only component on this page that we're not recommending for your consideration this evening is the field house with restrooms and storage. Everything else on here is as planned for in the bid documents. So when we came to you for SMAC design presentation about a year ago, we had looked at several options for how we were going to master plan and develop the Krueger Middle School property. One option was do the extracurricular piece first, which was cafeteria, kitchen, fine arts, and athletics. And then the second option was to do the academic additions first and extracurricular second. Based on how the site laid out and what we already had developed, we chose the option that put the extracurricular first. And at Jackson Middle School, we chose the option that was best suited for that campus, which was the academic additions came first. And you've seen that presentation as well. So this shows what we're including in the project. So we have a new addition shown here in the orange that includes cafeteria, kitchen, all the fine arts program areas and the athletic program areas. New tennis courts that are shown on the far right-hand screen. A new central plant. And the only component on the slide that's currently not included is the field house. And then there's parking and driveways to access the facility. We've sized the central plant to be able to accommodate future equipment as we continue the phased approach to how we would replace the rest of the facilities at Krueger Middle School. These are some views that the architect has created of what the final facility will look like. This is as you would look at the part of the campus facility that's facing towards the athletic fields. Our program budget was $28 million for this project, with $24,750,000 dedicated for construction. Our bid cost for the construction came in at $26,214,869. That includes the fine arts winger and band storage equipment, as well as the construction contingency. So we're over budget by about $1.64 million, or a little under 6%. If you look at that holistically, our original budget was based on that we put together back in the 2015 timeframe, was based almost 3 years ago, was based on $303 per square foot, and our actual cost came in at $321, a difference of about $18 a square foot. Now, if you look across all the projects that have bid in the fall of this year, and I've listed them from highest to lowest, the average of these 7 project costs was $306 a square foot, very close to the estimate we had put together 3 years ago. Some of the projects have tended to be a little bit more expensive, and I'll offer an explanation in a second, and some projects are less expensive, but the average is $306. So you can see in terms of the Krueger project, it's not overstated in terms of how it compares to MacArthur and Bradley. I will tell you at Krueger, the most expensive piece of a school to build, the most expensive square footage in the school is the cafeteria kitchen. It really is the kitchen, but it comes together as a package. That's the most expensive station. In Krueger, we have a new cafeteria kitchen, and that tends to drive the cost up. Plus, we also have what we would consider to be high volume spaces. The gymnasiums and the fine arts areas are 1.5-story spaces, not your typical classroom space, which is just a standard story. So those together cause the projects like Bradley, Krueger, MacArthur, because they all have fine arts spaces, Krueger has a cafeteria kitchen, to be more expensive than the Regency Place, Churchill High School, or the BAC field houses, which tend to be less expensive because they don't have cafeteria kitchens, they don't have fine art spaces to the same degree that we have at Krueger. We do have some fine art spaces at Churchill, but the majority of the school is the new C.T.E. edition. So I'm very pleased with how the costs have come in terms of it's not out of the realm of possibility based on this slide in terms of how it compares to the other projects. In terms of our timeline, with our recommendation tonight, board award in December of this year, we anticipate starting construction at the beginning of 2018 on January 4th. And it'll take us about 21 months going through September of 2019 to complete the new project, which essentially goes in this green grass area out here where you see the grass and the 4 existing tennis courts. That's where the facility would be located. Now, let's update you before you take a motion on this in terms of how we stand financially for our bond program. So our first 2 slides represents all the projects we bid to date. In the last 21 months, we have bid a number of projects. On the far right-hand column, if it's green, means the project came in under the program budget. If it's orange, it came in over the program budget. In terms of the color coding, the purple projects are design build. The blue project is a construction manager at risk. The terracotta project is a dock project, and the 2 grays are buy board contracts. Our second slide, this is where you're going to find the Krueger project, as well as all the projects that we have been since the fall of this year, starting with Regency Place. So all these projects from Regency Place down to Colonial Hills have all bid since the July timeframe. And you can see we've had a really good run of projects under budget, and we've had a few projects over budget. Really just MacArthur and Krueger are the only ones over budget. And the pool, if you look at that consent agenda item, you'll notice that if we hadn't done the pool expansion, which wasn't originally in the bond program, we would be under budget by $1 million. So it's showing it's over budget only because we included the pool expansion work in there. So overall, in the first 21 months of our bond program execution, we've accrued a contingency in the construction account of $6.3 million. The remaining projects to bid are shown on these next 2 slides. I will tell you the Jackson Middle School project bid, but we have not brought the recommendation to the board until January, so I'm not considering it to be in the bid awarded category until next month. But we are in budget. We have a number of big projects coming up. The Lee project, which is the largest project in our bond program, also to be managed by Guido Brothers Construction with Krueger. We have the Reagan project, another senior risk project. We have the agri-science project, which is a GBA project to do the phase 2 agri-science. So right there you've got over $50 million of work. And then rounding it out, these are the rest of the projects. We have one remaining senior risk project here at Hidden Forest. And you can see over the next 12 to 18 months, we're pretty well balanced in terms of our program cost and our program budget based on our current cost estimates. When you put this all together, we've got a current construction contingency of $6.575 million. This includes the cost overrun at Krueger Middle School that I've just briefed you on. Is already included in that number, as well as the pool. The contingency for the global fund at $50 million is still untouched, giving us a grand total of $21.57 million at this point in our bond program execution, where we have bid out essentially 63% of the program so far. We've got about another $150 million to go, and that'll be all the construction project out to bid. So our recommendation this evening is to award the GMP, which is all the subcontractor bids of the $23.6 million, which includes bid alternates 3 and 5, and to grant the superintendent, Mr. Clary, and myself authority to execute the contract. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Does anyone have any questions? Did you want to ask why that field house wasn't in there?
Yeah, we were just wondering why the field house was not part of the bid, why that bid was not
It can be
accepted.
included. I'm happy to include it, but I didn't want to presume, since we're already over budget, that you would all want to do that. But we certainly have the funding to do it, and it would be a good improvement to include if you also felt it was appropriate.
Where does that fall in matching with the other middle schools and their athletic facilities? Do the others have field houses?
Not every campus has a field house. I'd say the majority of the middle schools have restrooms and a storage area, but it's not 100%.
Are there restroom facilities then available for?
They'd have to go into the main academic building.
Okay.
But I would tell you, I think it would be a great idea.
How much? I didn't see a cost.
About
or I missed it.
$200,000.
200,000?
Yes, ma'am.
What?
It seems like it's a good opportunity to go ahead and finish everything we need to finish that we had on the agenda for Krueger.
I would concur.
Yeah, I was going to say, so would that have meant if we bypass it now, that at some point, another bond, or at some point in time later, you would have to kind of get the machines cranked up again, so to speak?
We'd have to actually go out there and essentially a completed area and dig it up and put it in the field house, which would be not the best choice. Could be done, but it would be more convenient to do it now, absolutely.
I mean, I hate to sound flippant about a couple $100,000, but
Well, it kind of makes sense to do it.
Given
I'm
that
just
you-
curious.
yeah.
I'm curious why you
Pulled out.
pulled it out and didn't recommend it.
I was just trying to be cost conscientious
Okay.
and deference to you all.
And that's probably my concern. It's uncomfortable being over budget anyway, yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, but it was not part of the 2015 bond program.
Dr. Gottardy, when we went out to the voters for the 2015 bond program, some of the projects, Jackson and Krueger are two of the most prominent. All we did was approve $28 million, and we told the voters, we have to meet with the architects and decide what we're going to build.
Okay.
So when we sat down with the architects and the construction manager early on in the project, we said, for $28 million, what can we build? And this is what we came up with, was this option. And we were a little bit light on the budget to meet what we had stated, but it's not like we told the voters back in 2015 we're going to build this extracurricular building. We just said we're going to spend $28 million, and we're spending $20 million and a little bit more.
Has this
So
gone
the
to
field house
CBAC?
wasn't included or not included, it wasn't stated.
Okay.
Has this gone to CBAC? Have they had any input on this at all?
The CBAC has seen the slide, they don't know what the bid results are yet.
Would that be something that they could review
It could, we could bring it to them at the January CBAC meeting.
and then get their input?
Yes, ma'am,
I
absolutely.
kind of think that, I mean, particularly Krueger and Jackson, those are campuses that have needed a lot of work for a long time, so I hate to short them on anything. It wouldn't be a problem if CBAC reviewed this first? It
No,
wouldn't
ma'am. I
cause a
mean, the
delay?
contractor's really not gonna get started until the early part of January, so we would, if CBAC recommended it and you all approved it, we would award a contract amendment to the contractor in February, mid-February. It's not going to in any way cause any problem for them.
And I agree with Tony too. We've seen in the past where we've waited on projects and then ended up paying a whole lot more than we originally had, was in the scope, so.
So do I hear, that you all want us to take it to CBAC and then come back to you at the February board meeting with a recommendation?
Unless someone's okay with going forward with the field house right now, I mean, I'll leave
Yeah,
that
but-
up for discussion. I just was curious if they'd heard about it.
Or is it something we can approve now and you can come back with an amendment if the CBAC wants to do that later? Is that the way we can do this?
What's the best way to
Madam
do
Chair.
it? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, if I understand correctly, Mr. Sullivan has that as an alternative, as an alternate, rather.
That's correct.
And the only reason he didn't bring it to us tonight, if I understand correctly, is because it's on budget. And thinking that we would not want to approve an additional amount over budget.
That's correct.
But the end of his presentation, with all the contingency funds available, I would think we should just go ahead and approve the alternate now.
Okay. Does
And you can do that, Madam President, and then we can have that discussion next month. You can go ahead and approve the project tonight, and then we will have that discussion with CBAC in January.
Okay.
Dr. Gottardy feel about it?
Do you have any comments, feelings?
No, I think the contingency fund is healthier than we thought it would be at this point.
Absolutely.
So we're extremely pleased with the overall 2015 bond program, but at the same time, we wanted to be very, very aware that we were already over budget. Therefore, we did not want to recommend another $200,000, but I wholeheartedly agree with all the comments so far tonight. If we come back to you in 3 to 5 years, that 200,000 is gonna be 400,000, 350,000.
Well, and if
So
we've got all the equipment there,
This is the time to do it. We can add it to the current contract and get it done.
And we can approve that tonight?
You can.
Okay.
so does my wording change?
With amendment.
I approve it.
No, just.
Yeah, I think.
I'll tell you what,
Just read the current with.
I don't see where.
With the bid
Okay, I'm going to
alternate.
start reading it, and Mr. Sullivan, you correct me if I'm,
This alternate is 3 or 5, right?
no, it's not listed because it wasn't accepted,
okay.
but I believe it's alternate number 4. Give me 1 second, I'll tell you.
okay. It's alternate 2?
It is alternate number 2.
Okay,
Correct.
all right,
So if you
so,
include alternate number 2 in that description, then that's the go-ahead to include the field house restroom.
but my contract award value is going to be 25,866? Because I need to add the 200?
Yes, ma'am, I'll give it to you. Second.
Sorry, Mr. Sullivan.
That's okay.
I know, I do too. all the
We
time.
want to keep, you can't go back through the slides.
$23,855,709.
Oh, whoa, wait, 23?
$855,709.
Okay,
Which
that's,
includes,
It
which
would-
includes
it
3,
would have to
4,
be
and
25.
includes 2, 3, and 5.
okay, because on my agenda item, it's 25,666,832.
Right, but what we're approving tonight, see, about a year ago, you hired the Guido Construction Company, and their fee was already approved.
Okay.
Now they're bringing to you all the subcontractors that they're gonna recommend. You don't
Okay.
have to get their fee approved again, it's already approved. So we're
Okay,
just
so my
adding
number
those-
is 23,855,709.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, here we go. Do I have a motion to allow Guido Brothers Construction to contract with the subcontractors shown in the construction cost bid summary provided at attachment 1 for the 2015 bond Krueger Middle School Phase 2 Construction Manager at Risk Campus Replacement Project for a total contract award value of $23,855,709, which includes bid alternates 2, which is for the field house, 3, construct 2 additional tennis courts, and 5, provide single wide CMU wall at all corridors. Additionally, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees grant the Superintendent, Associate Superintendent for Operations, and Executive Director for Construction Management and Engineering authority to execute this contract.
That was perfect.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. White.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Hasso. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Yes, ma'am, that was great.
All right, item 2, possible action regarding 2015 bond program Madison High School JROTC facility additions and renovations project bid authorization approval. Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam President. Our second and final presentation for this evening involves the Madison High School JROTC Facility Addition Renovations Project. This is the agenda we're going to follow for this evening. Our design team for this project is led by a new architect that joined us for our 2015 bond program, Garza Architects. And with us this evening, we have Mr. Jesse Garza, who's the principal partner. And he's got a very strong group of engineers that are supporting him. At Madison High School, the existing JRTC facility was built back in the '98 bond program by George General Contractors. And that was long before we came up with our new JRTC program. Because as you know, over the years, the programs are modified as T.E.A. changes their guidelines, and we look at new and better ways to build our facilities. So the Madison facility was included in this bond program to essentially rejuvenate it and bring it up to the same standard that we have been building at our newest schools. The current location, as you can see, is shown there on the back side of the campus near the football field. Now, in this particular case, the JRTC facility is located at the far left end, the west end, and we have a 2-story academic building that is also located that is contiguous or part of the same facility. We're only going to be touching the ROTC facility. So there you see the building as it relates to the rest of the campus. So this project, we're going to do a couple things. We're going to do some additions, two specific additions to the program. We need to add some square footage, and then we need to take what's there and we need to reorganize it, all the spaces, so that we can create at the end a programmatically correct facility. Essentially, we're going to be doing about 12,000 plus square feet of addition renovations, 4,384 of additions, and 7,752 of renovations. The 2 green areas show the additions we're going to do to the projects. We're going to be adding additions to both the south side and the north side of the building, which are shown in green. And now I'm going to kind of walk you through there's the additions that are shown in this case in purple, and what goes in those additions. And then within the confines of the facility, we have how we're going to reorganize and renovate the facility to bring everything up to program. This also includes, there'll be a follow-on project that will also be upgrading the targeting systems at this facility so that it will be just like the new targeting systems we have at Churchill, MacArthur, and at Lee, where we have the new Zeus targets, which are the Olympic targeting systems. The other 4 high schools will get those targeting systems as part of this bond program. So all the infrastructure for the targeting systems will be built into this project, and then Zeus will come in at the end and install the new targeting system and infrastructure. So here you can see the 2 purple areas are our additions. The yellow areas represent some additional concrete flat work to support those for access and egress. And then all the renovations essentially is in the middle of the building, and you can see how those renovations lay out. Now, obviously, to do this project, we can't do it with any students in the building. I mean, there's no way that we could accomplish the renovation in a summer period. So luckily for us, at Madison High School, we did knock down the old gymnasiums when we built the new athletic facility in the 2007 bond. We left that for a future bond program, and we're going to make use of those gyms, which are currently not being utilized, to put the ROTC facility into that space temporarily and let them operate while we give them a complete facelift at their ROTC facility. These are some elevations of the building from different perspectives. Now, unfortunately, when I put this program together, I didn't allocate enough money for this project. It's a little bit light, about $975,000, in order to accomplish what I've shown you. But I'm happy to report to you that the financial scorecard I just showed you included the $975,000 overage already funded in the $6.575 million construction contingencies. We've already got it covered. We're just disclosing to you that we need to increase the program of the budget in order to financially meet all of the requirements for design and construction, technology, and FF&E to complete the project. And that's just how the cost estimate goes. Some projects I've overestimated and some I've underestimated and some I've estimated just right. But overall, we have a very healthy contingency. If you look at this in terms of from a cost perspective, the blended cost per square foot is $227 a square foot because we've got the new construction at $325. We got the renovations at $170, so the blended cost is about $227. So the temporary location for the RTC is going to be adjacent to the current marching pad and the old athletic facility. And this is how that's going to be laid out. And we're going to complete this work over the next 4 months as we prepare to bid out the project and bring it back to you at the April board meeting for award. We'll have this area all ready to go so they can move into it around spring break of next year and be ready to go when we take over the building for the May start of construction. And in terms of our phasing plan, we can do both the new construction and the renovations concurrently because we've relocated the faculty and students to the adjacent gymnasium building, which is going to save us money and time. We can do the project a lot faster by vacating the building than trying to do a phased approach where we do an addition and then we come back and do renovations. So this is going to be the least expensive option for us. We anticipate coming back to you in April with the recommendation for contract award, as this is a CSP, a request for competitive proposal project. So we have no contractor assigned at this point. The contractors will all, I anticipate we're going to have 7 to 8 bidders going after this project. And then they'll start construction in May, and it'll take them about 15 months to complete the project. So it'll be ready for the start of the 2019 school year. In terms of the financial scorecard, you can see the Madison project fits right there. There's the $975,000 we need to meet the program. And our construction contingency is very healthy at $6.575 million. It's included in that value already. So our recommendation is to approve the bid authorization presentation you've seen this evening with a revised construction budget of $2.75 million. Requiring a program increase of $975,000 to complete the additions and renovations at the Madison ROTC facility. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Sullivan about this one? If not, do I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, yes?
Madam Chair, I don't have a question, but but I would like to let the record show that we only have an 8-lane rifle range in this project.
That's correct, Mr. White.
And based on some of the requests that we've been hearing, that we have competition firing range at the local high schools rather than the one we do have that's competition. Just want to let it know that at Madison, it's going to be 8 lanes.
Yes, sir.
According to this. Thank you.
If I could address that for a second?
Yes.
Because it did come up at the last board meeting. We've had 8 lanes at our RTC facility since I joined the district 18 years ago. And as we've been rebuilding and upgrading our RTC facilities, there was a recommendation made about 5 years ago by the JRTC officer in charge to build one destination RTC facility. And there was discussion with the board and the previous superintendent, and it was decided that would be put at Lee High School. And that facility would be capable of supporting all the district's multi-team competitions. And so it was decided to put one in, and there was no discussion of putting in more than one. So we are following the plan that was approved by the board about 5 years ago, and I know there was some discussion about building other 16-lane facilities, which could be done. I mean, just that requires additional monies, but that wasn't not part of our program.
But there's not a real need to have 16 lanes at every school, right?
It wasn't as anticipated by the ROTC commander, or
Right.
the colonel in charge of ROTC, to have 16 lanes at every school. Now, if you have 16 lanes, would they get used? Absolutely. I mean, the more lanes you have, the more students can fire in a day. But I can tell you for the last 18 plus years, 8 lanes have been satisfactory for our teams to go and compete nationally, and we've done very well. But there's nothing, would be nothing wrong with having double the number of lanes. We'll just give more students the opportunity to practice every day.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else have any comments? Did you? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the release of bid documents for the 2015 Bond Madison High School JROTC facility additions and renovations project using the request for competitive sealed proposal bid delivery method, and authorize the construction management and engineering department to solicit competitive bids for this project?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Perkins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hasso. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. And
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you, everyone, for being here this evening. I think I see a lot of.
I have some introductions because the next agenda item is consent, if you'd like.
Sure, I would love for you to do that.
All right, if I could have everybody for the projects that are here for consent stand up, I'm going to recognize you, please. All right, so in the front row, we have Greg Houston and Sean Bacon from Marm and Mock. They're responsible for the Walker Pool. Behind them, we have Sean Carlson, Fernando Garcia, and Chris Lammers, who are responsible for the Northern Hills and Oak Grove Clinic project. Behind them, we have Dan Byron from Joris, who's going to be doing the Churchill project, and Andrew Shradowa was our estimator that brought us that great cost estimate. Tony Battle from Byrne Construction, he's the regional president. He'll be doing the Walker Pool project, and this is our first project with them. We're delighted to have them on our team. And then we have Brad Shearer, who is the regional vice president for Satterfield and Ponticus, who will be doing the Colonial Hills project, and he's also on the Northern Hills and the Oak Grove Clinic project as well.
Thank you all for, yes, thank you all for being here.
And one other, they didn't stand up, Mr. Davis and Mr. Flores from GBA, who are doing the Churchill design project. Thank you all.
Thank you. Item E, consent. 1, business services. A, budget amendment number 3. B, over 50,000 purchases. 2, operations. A, 2015 bond program, Churchill High School Phase 6, construction manager at risk, additions and renovations project bid award approval. B, 2015 bond program, BAC Walker Pool facility replacement, construction manager at risk project bid award approval. C, 2015 bond program, Colonial Hills Elementary School kitchen addition and renovations job order contract project bid award approval. D, 2015 bond program Northern Hills Elementary School Athletic Addition and Renovations Project bid authorization approval. E, 2015 bond program Oak Grove Elementary School Clinic Addition and Renovations Project bid authorization approval. F, purchase of real property for Northeast RAMEC Wellness Area Pocket Park. G, professional services contracts, construction contracts, and related contract amendments supporting the 2011 and 2015 bond design and construction requirements. H, minutes from September and October 2017. 3, end of consent. Do I have a board member wishing to pull an item from consent? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve consent?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Perkins.
Second.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Item 12, reports. A, financial statement review of expenditures, that's been provided to you. B, awarded bid report, that's been provided for you. Item 13, matters from the floor. The trustees welcome comments from members of the public during this time of the meeting. Generally, board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting, although members may request further information or a future agenda item on a matter raised during public comment. As explained fully in the board's written procedures for this time, the matters from the floor portion is a limited public forum. Accordingly, speakers may present on a topic related to district business for up to 3 minutes, but are not permitted to make 1, personal complaints about an individual staff or board member that should be raised using the district's grievance policies. 2, a personnel action. 3, a student disciplinary matter. 4, a complaint about a particular student. 5, or pending litigation. Any person who persists in speaking on these topics after being directed not to will lose the remainder of their time to speak and may lose their privilege of addressing the board at future meetings. We also welcome written comments at any time, either through email at board@neisd.net or by mail, care of the Superintendent's Office at 8961 Tesoro Drive, 6th floor, San Antonio, Texas, 78217. Ms. Hughey.
Lisa Kapoor.
Good evening. After 25 years of being in the military, my husband and I decided to move to San Antonio.
Name and address.
Oh, yes. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Lisa Kapoor, 18606 Grand Mesa, San Antonio, Texas. After 25 years of being in the military, my husband and I decided to move to San Antonio. I read on greatschool.org how NEISD is one of the best in academics. This is our 3rd year, and I can confirm academics are phenomenal, and the teachers really care for their students. I'm here to discuss an incident that happened at Bulverde Creek Elementary. Last month, to my daughter and my strong conviction that more video cameras should be installed at the school. All the Bulverde Creek Elementary students had to wait in the gym before school started. The gym was packed with over 990 students. When the bell rang, the teacher had asked all the students to line up. One boy was still sitting on the floor, and my daughter didn't see him and accidentally stepped on his backpack. She apologized to him. He said something she did not hear clearly at first, but later realized he had said, "I'm going to punch you." When everybody was coming out of the gym, this boy came up from behind my daughter and punched her on the side of her face. There is a video camera outside the gym which showed him punching her. 2 weeks later, the principal sent out an email stating that 4 of the classes will wait in the cafeteria and the other 4 in the gym. Although there was a video camera this time that showed what the boy did, I strongly believe that there should be more video cameras throughout the school and that the students should be made aware of the video cameras. That way, if students are aware that there are video cameras throughout the school, an incident like this would be much less likely to occur. I hope and pray that the board would take this into consideration.
Thank you.
Patsy Esterline.
Good evening, Board President Grona, board members, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests. My name is Patsy Esterline, and I represent the Northeast American Federation of Teachers. My address is 6800 Park 10 Boulevard, Suite 123 North, 78213. Tonight, I want to share my letter to Santa with you. Dear Santa, the teachers, administrators, and staff in NEISD have been extremely good Well, most of us at least. Please watch out for the Grinch who stole our pay raise this school year. He may be lurking in the shadows for the 2018-2019 school year. We continue to do so much more with less that we are exhausted. We appreciate the upcoming 2-week reprieve on the calendar. If you could speed up time for that time off to start, it would be greatly appreciated. If San Antonio is ever graced with snow again, could we have a 2-hour delay so that our students could enjoy building snow people or having snowball fights with their families? We didn't have much opportunity to take advantage of that last Thursday and Friday because it was so unexpected. Santa, if you have some technical elves, we could sure use them to figure out why some of our classroom smart boards don't work properly. We want our students engaged and participating with this wondrous technology. However, if the board doesn't live up to its reputation, then we need help. Also, some of our printers that reside in teachers' rooms are invaluable. They are true workhorses, and they need to be replaced when they break down. Please help with this, Santa, if you can. Teachers are still asking for smaller class sizes. Research has shown us that student achievement increases when the class sizes are smaller. Also, since teachers are splitting grade levels, there are lots of planning meetings during conference times and before and after school. Plus, let's not forget duty and tutoring times. It would be great to return to the hours of yesteryear when teachers worked 7 hours and 45 minutes. Our own children were able to get to school after the sun rose. Counselors are asking for a 504 CTC person on each campus that is not a counselor. There is just too much to do and not enough time to do all the paperwork. Counselors would rather be meeting with students than pushing paper around. Master schedules seem to be run by electives than core academic classes.
That's your time.
Got the best part. Okay.
Highland McGinty.
Hi, my name's Ione McGinty. I live at 344 Townview, 78213. And I've been coming to the last couple board meetings, and I would like to say that actions always speak louder than words. And I've spoken on my concern about the name change at Robert E. Lee. And this came after a former student whining didn't work. And the district pushed the narrative that this was all for the students' safety. And there was information disseminated that there have been threats of violence against the school, against board members, but apparently no police reports were made. Every student that I talk to and every taxpayer is against the name change. So it's not fiscally responsible. It's not educationally responsible. The district said that they reached out to the community, you know, they had the online thing. Well, 80% of the responses didn't fit the criteria because 80% of the taxpayers in the district are against it. And at the last meeting, it was mentioned that there was going to be $15,000 spent for an on-campus museum. In light of recent events on how I was treated by the district on a recent visit, I wonder if anybody is going to be able or allowed to go to this museum. So the district says that they're worried and concerned about student safety, but while 2 NEISD policemen were sent to my house to deliver a threatening letter, a student was kicked in the head and rendered unconscious on campus. Also, new football uniforms, okay? The football team, they worked very hard and they fundraised on their own, the team did, at Lee, to purchase their new football uniforms. What is this teaching the kids when they're told those are going to be thrown away? I've talked to the football players. They're very disheartened. It teaches them that hard work does not pay off. But if you whine and you complain and you're a bully, you get your way. So I just do not understand why the district is pushing this narrative when the taxpayers and the students at Robert E. Lee are against it.
Sienna Lindeman.
Madam President, Board, and the community members, thank you for this chance to address you. My name is Catherine Sienna Lindeman. I reside at 5815 Spring Cabin, 78247. I am the mother of 2 sons who attended Madison High, and one of who graduated from Madison and one from ACE. I've also worked as a paid and volunteer staff member for youth serving organizations. I'd like to thank the teachers at Madison and Stahl and Wood for their care of my children. But I'm speaking tonight to urge the district to provide better supportive services and new spaces in high schools that reduce isolation for our children. We all know that in the last 10 years, the vast majority of mass shootings have been committed by young white males who have attended schools very similar to Madison, not inner city schools whose infrastructure is crumbling, but beautiful schools with the kind of facilities that have been discussed tonight, with lots of money poured into facilities and to team activities for the joiners. My own experience has been that the majority of resources have gone to these joiners, to band and sports and UILs, and not to counselors and creating cohorts and spaces that help children who are isolated. The young men and women who did the flag ceremony are another good example of that. These kids are outstanding, but who offered maybe the quietest, most isolated child at Krueger the chance to do the flag ceremony tonight? No one. Those children fall through the cracks. We can't go back to change what has happened in the past, but I can speak up for the young men who are currently in our schools, who no one notices, and who don't have enough counselors. I think it is time that we recognize the responsibility that we and our large schools have in warehousing these kids. I would urge that, for example, in my own experience as a supervisor in organizations, the first thing I do in a new job is set up cohorts and things that build teams. I urge the school district to think about something like homerooms or cohorts in which all kids are involved and asked to participate and earn points, not just the kids who are joiners. I was lucky enough to be able to encourage my non-joiners to be in scouting and have the time and money to have them do that. And today, one is a veteran attending college and the other is working. But many parents don't have those resources. So I would like to, again, urge the school district to take a look at all of our kids, not just the joiners, and reach out in ways that will prevent these tragedies from happening again in our country. Thank you.
Item 14, discussion and possible action regarding board members' request for items to be placed on a future agenda and or requests for reports from the administration. Does anyone have anything? Seeing none, item 15, adjournment, and the time is 7:59.